second. The question tonight, what's your favorite subscription? What are your favorite subscriptions? Maybe your favorite subscription business, and what part of its model do you love the most? Lisa Mccloud is here too, and you're going to meet her. She and Robbie are going to be in conversation together. I just love this book, which you're going to hear more about. Both of Robbie's books, but how she thinks about membership is so interesting, and then of course it's like particularly interesting as we are right now and we would hope for everyone feeling like they're moving out of a pandemic. I'm going to get started. Just sharing with you some thoughts of mine, because we want to be able to turn things over to Lisa and Robbie as quickly as we can. So I'll just say this is our CPS lecture number 147. This is with Robbie Kellman Baxter on the forever transaction. And it's amazing. I've gotten to know Robbie for so long. And I remember when all of us heard the title of what her newest book was going to be. We all just like, we really did, Robbie. We all really did lean in, to where we were at that moment, and being able to watch you articulate this has been, has just been incredibly special, and feeling a little bit like an insider, as I've gotten to see how many people that you helped and how much you have helped me personally, us personally at diaTribe, and at Close Concerns. So we say, the most important thing an organization can do, I just quote you all the time, building a deep relationship with their customers, with the people that are in and around their organizations. It's not easy to do, as you've told me. You can't contact your customers or those that belong to your organization too much, or they'll be irritated, but too little, and they'll forget your organization exists, and you can't grow without the support of a strong base of people out there, whether or not, and so for everybody here, whether or not like you're thinking about your own organization or you're curious about how this model works, Robbie's here to tell us how to establish a subscription model that's going to really build long-term relationships with every single person who is at the other end. That might be a customer or a client. It might be, it might be you're thinking about, in a nonprofit organization, something like that. You might not even think of them as clients or customers, but they're going to talk about that too. So the chief marketing officer at Microsoft said, Robbie Kellman Baxter is an expert guide to this powerful business model, and the future belongs to businesses who transform their interactions with customers from just transactions to meaningful engagements that create long-term fans. That was Chris Capasala. Thank you. So Robbie is a superstar strategy advisor. She's helped companies like Netflix, Oracle, Electronic Arts, eBay. The Forever Transaction is, it's your second book, Robbie. It's so cool. It's just amazing to have been an insider and to be able to watch you build these. She's also the author of The Membership Economy, a complete must read, in and around the industry. And she's had pieces published, CNN, Harvard Business Review, you name it. She's often quoted in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. And in addition to her own writing, she has, just a very impressive background, going all the way back to Booz Allen Hamilton. And prior to that, she's a graduate, an MBA from Stanford, and she was an English major at Harvard. So that Forever Transaction, it's full of really cool advice on subscription businesses that are just all about engagement. So you want to run, not walk, to pick up the book, and we'll tell you how to do that. Obviously putting it into your favorite independent bookstore link. A lot of you have already read it. A lot of you, like me, have given out multiple copies. And just to be like very supportive of the writers of our time, the amount of time that it took her to write this, and like the degree to which you're going to make people really happy if you give them this book, if they don't have it, is great. So just look for links. They're probably already there from Katie. And please help. I say this every single time I don't know everybody here tonight. A lot of you have been here before. Thank you. It is so incredibly important for all of us to leave reviews at Amazon. I have such a hard time doing it because it's never quite the magical review that I think it should be. And so it's such a, for me, selfish way of looking at these things, because it's really the right thing to do. So we'd love if you can do that. And again, buy these as wonderful gifts for anyone looking to promote engagement at their organization or business. Maybe they're trying to do that. Maybe they don't even know that they're trying to do that. Tonight, Robbie's joined by Lisa Earl Mccloud, who's a customer development guru, truly global expert on purpose-driven businesses, and really author of 5 books, including Selling with Noble Purpose and Leading with Noble Purpose. So she has spent 20 years helping leaders increase, as I understand it, sort of customer differentiation and emotional engagement. So it sounds like she started off at P&G, founded her own firm, Mccloud and More, in 2001. Coming up on, I don't know, or maybe you've already crossed your anniversary, the 20-year mark, Lisa. Maybe you can say a bit about it. But as I understand it, you really help leaders just think about exponential growth and how to do that in a way that really energizes the employee base and so forth. So I am really excited to see that we have so many people here who are putting things in chat. If you haven't put anything in chat yet, and you can, that would be great, just about this question. And they're going to ask another question in a little while that we're very curious about what you'll see for the answers as well. So again, what's your favorite subscription business? What part of its model do you love the most? And, as usual, I always want to thank incredibly our diaTribe team, led by Katie, who always does so much behind the scenes to make these magical meetings happen, these magical gatherings happen. And we know that you're in for such treats. I'm going to hand it over to you, Lisa, and to you, Robbie. But just, Robbie, again, I mean, what a dream to have you here and to get to be in conversation with the two of you. Thank you so much. I know people who know me really well know that I always just think about, oh, wow, my parents, if they could be here, how amazing it would be. My dad in particular would just be, so really fascinated by this discussion. So cheers to you, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Kelly. So as Kelly said, I'm Lisa, and I was so delighted to have this chance to interview Robbie because I actually watched her birth this book, and this one and this one. So this is going to be a conversation tonight, not just about business, but what it really means to have a sense of belonging and how that integrates with business, and why the whole economy and the way we do commerce, the way we connect, has actually really changed. So to set the stage, I want to take you back 10 years ago. So Robbie and I have been in a mastermind group together for a long time. And so 10 years ago, Robbie was saying, I think I'm going to write this book. I'm not sure what it's going to be about. I'm starting to see something. And then I wrote this down in 2014. We were at a meeting in Washington, D.C. together. And Robbie said, I see something. I see something happening out there in the market. Other people are not seeing it. They're not talking about it. And it's this thing called membership. And I'm going to write about it. And so she's in this room with 7 other consultants, and we're all like, holy crap, that's a thing. You totally need to write about that. And so the book came out the next year. And so what I'm going to do tonight is we're going to talk about Robbie's body of work and the implications it has for all of us. And I'm going to start with the membership economy, because their new book is The Forever Transaction. But to really understand it, we have to go back to the membership economy. And so I'm going to read you something. So I'm going to read your own book aloud to you. I'm going to read to you what Alan Blue, the co-founder of LinkedIn, said in the introduction. He talks in the very beginning about how a sense of belonging is just innate for human beings, and we all want it, and we all want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. We all want to feel like we're in the cool kids club. And he says that that's an important part of this book. But this is what I want to read you. He says, but understanding belonging and how to build it is only one reason you need this book. The second reason is this book describes the future. This book describes the future. And so, Robbie, I want you to tell us, when you were looking, you had this consulting background, you're working with all these companies, you looked across this landscape back 6 years ago and you went, I'm seeing something. Can you describe that and why it was so powerful for you?
Yeah, I had been, thank you for that really nice introduction to both of you, Lisa and Kelly. What I was seeing, so I'd worked with Netflix, I'd worked with SurveyMonkey, I'd worked with a bunch of companies. I'd kind of fallen in love with this idea of, I wasn't sure, was it subscriptions? Was it premium services? Was it membership? I was trying to come up with a word for it, but what I saw and what I was experiencing was that organizations that had a long-term focus on the people that they were serving were enjoying better business models. And it seems so obvious, but on top of that was the fact that this thing called subscription pricing was suddenly becoming a lot easier for organizations to do, that technology was extending the infrastructure that enabled subscription type of relationships, that enabled membership experiences like this one that we're having right now as a group, that enabled that digitally across time and space. And I started thinking about, well, this could apply to old line businesses like newspapers, and as they reinvent themselves, this could apply to startups here in Silicon Valley. This could apply to my local bookstore, Kepler's. Kepler's has a membership. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that almost any organization, for-profit, not-for-profit, startup, public company, closely held business, you name it, you can build a membership around it. You can enjoy subscription revenue if you start with that long-term well-being of your customer.
Well, I feel like when you spotted this and you did more than just coin the phrase, you were the one that saw the infrastructure behind it. And I almost feel like the membership economy was almost like the person who said, we're in an industrial revolution. And everyone went, yeah, that's what this thing's going to be. And I think what was so interesting to me was the way you described this. And it was almost like we thought we were entering this age of technology, but we actually weren't, because technology was the thing that was enabling this, that was changing the way we did commerce. And what you said in the book was, you say, what is the membership economy? Some say it's all about subscriptions. Others say it's about community and communication. Still others say it's about belonging. So I love that, like all of those things together. And you say, some say it's been around forever in associations, loyalty programs, and gyms. You said, I think the membership economy is all of these things. But what changed? So businesses could understand, oh, I get everybody to pay me once a month. That's going to make me more money. But what changed in the hearts and minds of the consumer that made us ready for this?
I don't think anything changed. I think consumers have always, when we're people, let's say, forget consumer, human beings, we've always wanted to be connected, and we want to achieve our goals, and we want to solve our problems. So organizations that tap into those are like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The organizations that tap into those needs are the ones that are going to enjoy deeper relationships with their customers. So if you want to have an ongoing relationship with your customer and enjoy that awesome monthly ka-ching, right, you need to really think about, what can I do on an ongoing basis for the customer? And from the customer perspective, if an organization is helping me solve a problem and it's like one less thing that I need to worry about, or they're providing me a connection with other people that makes me feel like I belong, like someone's got my back, I'm willing to keep paying. I'm willing to turn off my consumer hat and, put on a member hat and stop looking for alternatives. Somebody has solved my problem. Somebody has made me feel like I'm at home.
Well, I hope everyone heard that. I think you said something really important there. I'm going to turn off my consumer hat and turn on my member hat. We were running a training program for a bunch of salespeople one time, and we asked them, which brands they were loyal to. And I kid you not, people were ready to fight each other over the merits of In-N-Out Burger versus Chick-fil-A. Like they had this, yeah, and yet nobody was standing up for Burger King, McDonald's, or Taco Bell, but these people were ready to go to the mat for these two brands who are also both working on membership models. And I want you to explain a little more. A couple of people are saying here in the chat, I like my relationship with Tesla. Relationship. I mean, that's an interesting word to use. So what is the difference? Because when I have my consumer model on, I'm comparing prices and I'm deciding that first part of the equation. Are you solving, my problem? Can you get my clothes clean? Can you get my vegetables to my door, daily harvest? Can you get this 10 pounds off my backside? But then there's a moment when you switch. What happens, and what can organizations do to create that moment when you sort of say, I'm not a consumer, I'm a member now?
Yeah, it's the, and it's, I'm glad that you said that when they say I'm a member now, it's when they feel like, okay, I belong here. And a lot of businesses, like my dad, I think, was the one that put up the, I have a relationship with my Tesla. Tesla doesn't even have a subscription. It's not about the subscription. It's not about the pricing. It's how we feel. And my guess is that if Tesla came out with a new subscription for something that tied into that promise that they've made to their car owners, a lot of people would get in line to get access to whatever it was that they were offering because they're Tesla people and they trust Tesla and they believe in what they're doing and they value it. So, I mean, I think that's really what's at the heart of this.
Well, it's interesting language that you use when you talk about their promise and the heart and their sense of belonging. I mean, those are typically that's the language of the soul and of the spirit. That's not the language we tend to think about. When am I going to pay $9.99 for something? But as you talk about it, one thing that you said, I remember at the beginning of the membership economy that just clicked with me was you talked about the stories. And Tesla's a great example. Anybody that owns a Tesla, get them alone for 10 minutes. You don't even have to bring it up and they'll be talking about how great their Tesla is. Same thing with, Peloton. You once told me that one of your friends worships at the Church of the Holy CrossFit. What is it about these certain brands that what are they doing for people within their business model, within their marketing, that's just making people feel like it is this promise that they've fulfilled for them?
Yeah, well, it does start with a promise. So moving away from the product itself, it's very tempting to say, we make widgets, we create, we do design briefs, or, we have checkups. I'm a surgeon, I do surgeries, right?
Or I'm a bookstore.
I'm a bookstore, I sell books, right? Kepler's went from being, I'm a bookstore, we sell books, to really focusing on, we're a community gathering place. And we help people gather and gain new ideas and perspectives through books. And so you may buy a book, you may go to an event, you may join and pay to be a member of the community. But it's not just about the books, it's about the ideas and it's about the community. And when you take a step back and you think about what that promise is, you start to see all of these potential features and benefits that you can offer to your member. So for example, newspapers, right? Newspapers, their forever promise is usually around something like, we're going to help you understand the world around you so you can make better decisions. That's why we get, our local, hyper-local paper, so we can find out what restaurants are opening up in our neighborhood. That's why we get, the New York Times to learn about, emerging culture. That's why we might get the Wall Street Journal to learn about business. It's not about the print. It's not about the paper. It's about helping me prepare and make better decisions and feel like I understand the world. So does that mean that it has to be a newspaper? No, it could be digital content. It could be courses. It could be coaching. It could be trips, travel. All of those things could help us to make better decisions. But a lot of newspapers sort of stopped at newsprint.
Yeah. I think this is such an important thing that you've said here that I hope people are hearing. And I think it applies whether you're in business, you're running a nonprofit or whatever. The shift was from, I sell books, I sell cars, even I feed hungry children, even if you're running a nonprofit. The shift was, here's what it's doing for the members, the customers, the impact it's having on them. And that is a small but profound shift for businesses to make. And it's a tell just in the language when they talk about, like, you can tell the difference between somebody who says I sell books versus somebody who says we're creating a community of people to explore ideas. Like, that's totally different. And you think of different things. So there's a couple chapters before we jump to the forever transaction. There's a couple chapters that I wanted to spotlight in the membership economy. And I thought this was really profound. It ties to this promise that you're talking about. One was chapter 8, where you said incorporate free as a tactic, not a strategy. Because so many people have like the free download, the free 1-month trial, the free version. You know, years ago, one of our clients was Hootsuite, and they had the freemium. They had followed you where they had the freemium. But then why is that just why is that a strategy? And what does that do for people when they have that free?
Yeah, so free is a really interesting tool that can be used in almost any business model. But the two mistakes that I see organizations make is either they give away stuff without really understanding what it does for the business.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought, like, we should give some, like, I had one client that said, we should give something away for free because that's what people do.
Right. Robbie Baxter said you had to have a free thing. What did we do?
Yeah, give something away. All the hot companies give something away for free, or we need to give it away for free because that shows that we are mission driven or that we care.
Yeah.
And the other side, which is kind of the opposite, is we're not going to give anything away for free because our stuff is so valuable that we're only going to charge. And
what do you think? We're running a charity here? We got to charge.
Right, exactly. And even charities shouldn't always give everything away for free. Even if you have a charitable mission, you shouldn't give everything away for free, but you need to think about, why am I giving this away for free? Or what could I give away for free? And what would I expect to get in return? So you might get, freemium is a way of, changing behaviors, right? If you're going from print to digital, for example, you make it free for a while. So people are like, wow, I keep hitting that 10 article per month threshold. Right. I must actually be going digital. Like, I didn't think I was really going to use digital, but I am. So I guess I'll subscribe. Or it's a way of reaching out to new people. So, SurveyMonkey, for example, I subscribe to SurveyMonkey. I send you a book club invitation. You happen to be the head of market research at Procter & Gamble. You say, this is a great tool. So I'm actually your marketing channel. Those are just a couple of ways that free can really play an important role. But I think a lot of organizations don't get very creative and don't really think about, what could I give away for free and what might that do for my business?
Yeah. So one question that I want to ask in the chat, if people could answer, is what subscription do you use where you use the free version when there is a paid option and you are using the free version? And there's no shame or judgment. We're not saying you're cheap at all. If they put it out there for you to use it.
Wait, Lisa, does it count if you go to Costco and get lunch?
Oh, I don't know. Do you just go there and get lunch?
I get the freemium version of Costco.
Yeah, that's an example. That is a great example.
The free trial.
Yeah.
The free trial version.
Polypol, Woofu. Yeah. So what do you use that you get the free? Zoom. That's a great example. And you know what? That is an excellent example. Do you want to speak a little bit about that? Because so many of us had just the free Zoom and it was this occasional thing. And whoa, did their freemium work?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. I mean, there's a bunch of things about Zoom that have worked really well. One of them is that you get free and then it becomes how you do business. That's kind of the number one reason for freemium, right? I got Zoom. I didn't think I'd use it very much. There's a bunch of other applications that I use. And then I'm like, wow, I'm on Zoom all day long. I wonder what other features they have. Maybe I'll use that. So there's an upgrade thing. Another thing is it's a way to bring people in, right? If I'm having a meeting and I invite all of you and I say it's on Zoom and it's free for you to join, then I'm more likely to require it, right? To say, well, we're gonna have book club on Zoom and I'm gonna send you a link and you're gonna learn how to use it. So I'm actually helping you learn how to use it. So it's a way of kind of a viral growth type of thing. What's been really interesting in the past year with Zoom is when COVID hit and everybody was using Zoom, they immediately said, we're making it available to all K through 12 teachers for free. And they also extended a lot of the other free benefits for everybody. And that's really interesting because when you look at something like that, you can say, well, the cynical part of you can say, well, they're doing it because they're going to reach more people. But in this case, I do think that it was also about what's the right thing to do in this global crisis. So it was kind of an interesting, I think they did the good deed, but it also played really well and helped them really build a tremendous new fan base. And also people really pushed it to its limits. And they had some troubles early on with security.
Yeah.
For example, we were joking about some of our favorite Zoom bombers from March and April of last year. And it forced them to develop better security because people were using it in ways that, had never been imagined. Like, who thought that you needed to have that much security for a group chat? Well, if you have 6-year-olds in there, it becomes really, really important. So it's been really interesting to see how freemium has also forced innovation for Zoom.
And that's what I was thinking that I hope folks are taking in is, this Zoom is such a great example. It also, did they do the right thing because they wanted to be good citizens? Did they think it would pay off? People are complex. I say they did the right thing, give them credit. And it's funny how when you do the right thing, good things usually happen to you, karma.
Yeah.
But what it does, and I think the point that you're making is they gave something away for free and then it became our habit.
Yes.
And because so many people were using it and it was their habit, that then drove the innovation because they had feedback from all these users who wanted them to be successful. Because you gave it to us for free, we're all on it, we want you to be successful. And I think that's that whole concept. And it's a perfect pivot to the other book, The Forever Transaction, because I know one of the things you talk about in there is when you have this relationship with your customers. And again, whether it's a bookstore, whether you're a big SaaS firm, whether you're Netflix, like they're invested in you and they become the source of innovation. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know that when you wrote this book really introduced people into the membership economy and what it was and how it worked and why it was crucial. And then I know a lot of people implemented and they didn't all get it right. So that's why you had to write this book, which was exactly how to do it. And you'd seen a lot of the pitfalls. So you talk a little bit about this innovation piece and why membership is so important to driving innovation and leads you to this forever transaction.
Yeah. So a couple of really important points that I just want to touch on. One of them is when you have a subscription relationship with your customers, you have to keep evolving the offering. You have to keep improving. And it's kind of counterintuitive because you're like, well, they trust me so much that they're not looking for alternatives. I can just go on autopilot and they can have the same old stuff forever. But that doesn't build trust. And if the customer ever takes off their blinders for whatever reason and happens to notice that there's better alternatives out there, they're never going to forgive you. They're going to leave, they're going to never come back, and they're going to tell their friends, because the more you trust, the more violated you feel when the other side is not trustworthy. So that becomes really important. The other thing is that nature of continuing to iterate, like you're getting all this data from your subscribers, from your members, because you're seeing how they're using your products and services. They're very generous with their feedback to you because they feel like they belong and they feel very comfortable telling you what you're doing wrong, which is a gift. And that allows you to continue to evolve along your product roadmap, which means that it becomes harder and harder for anybody to disrupt your relationship, right? So subscription forces you to innovate. Innovation makes it really hard for somebody else to break in with something new because your members are like, wow, they keep anticipating what I'm going to need before I get there. One of the great things about great subscriptions is they almost can see around corners for you. They know what you're going to need before you even realize that you need it, because they've seen so many people like you, because they're so focused on serving people like you for the long term.
Yeah. And there's a lot to unpack there. They're so focused on serving. And I want to circle back to this thing that you said about trust and how it plays out in a competitive landscape if they find out there's a better alternative. And I think one of the things that I've observed, and especially, how once you get a lens on something, you can't unsee it. And after knowing you and reading your books, I like see it every time in business, is that when someone is your devoted member, if they're your subscriber to the Washington Post, or, I'm getting Daily Harvest all the time, whatever it may be, and I'm all in for you, But if you know, as the provider, that the competition has cooked up something better, and you don't at least say, hey, just so you know, we're working on this. If you think that people aren't going to find out, you do yourself a disservice. And I love what you're saying about this, because on the innovation side, if I'm all in for Daily Harvest and they tell me, guess what, we're working on pizzas and we're going to have them in 3 months, I'll hang on. I'll wait. I will not jump ship for those pizzas. I will wait for you, Daily Harvest.
Yeah.
But I think, how do you keep that loop with the customer all the time?
Yeah. So first of all, you have a huge advantage, right? If you have a
Yeah.
trusted relationship with somebody, you have the inside scoop on what they want and what they're dissatisfied with. And so you can keep evolving and moving forward. And I encourage organizations, I always say, use your microscope and your telescope. So your microscope is looking at today's members and today's offerings and how are we going to make it a little bit better, and always making it a little bit better. At the same time, you want to be seeing around corners for your members. You want to be looking out on the horizon and saying, whoa, I'm a newspaper, but looks like there's going to be something digitally coming down the pike.
Right.
And I should probably get there, instead of saying, but I spent all this money on my printing presses, so I'm going to pretend like digital doesn't exist for as long as possible and hope that my consumers are too dumb to notice. Right?
Yeah.
Because eventually I know they're going to change. This idea of a cash cow, this idea that, we're just going to keep standing here and keep chewing our cud and not looking at what's out there, I think is a really dangerous thing. But the ones that do it right are using their microscope to look at today's members and using their telescope to understand where tomorrow's members might be going when they're still in consumer mode, and saying, you know what, it might be painful to offer digital subscriptions when I still own all these printing presses. But if I don't go there, I'm going to lose my customers. Like you always have to do the right thing for your members.
So I hope everyone was probably like me, drawing the parallels when you were saying that, when you're saying there, oh, but I've got my business model here, I can't afford to go there. Over attachment to the current business model always leaves you in the cold. And as you were thinking about that, one of the places where you spotted this early on was Netflix. And one need look no further than Netflix and Blockbuster going, while Blockbuster's going, how can we put overpriced candy at the checkout so we can make more money? Netflix is going, woohoo, what can we do in home entertainment? And it's so interesting because, as you described that, when people have that insular view, which is, how can we make more money off our existing business model? Printing presses, video stores, whatever. They're not looking at their members and saying, where are they going to be going in the future? So I want to, right before we open it up for questions, I want to ask the group a chat, and then I want you to describe something. The question for the group is, have you ever tried to cancel a membership and had trouble? And go ahead and name names in this. Go ahead. Out of
We're
right
among
here.
friends.
Yeah. And what I want to ask you, Robbie, is you have people in your talk. So Robbie is a great speaker, virtual and one day live again, but you have people take an oath at the end of some of your talks about what they will never. And I want you to describe the oath and why you have them take it.
Yeah, I do. I have this oath about putting your customer first, and it ends with never, ever, 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 ever hide the cancel button. Just because so many businesses do just that. They say things. I mean, I've heard people say this in closed rooms, like, if we put 3 more steps into our cancel process, we can save people. I mean, it's like lock them in for another month or another 2 months. We can get another $18 of revenue and improve our lifetime value. Isn't that good? Or if we make people call on Tuesdays between 4 and 6, we can get another 3 months out of them. And I feel like not only is that bad karma, like who wants to be in business where you say the reason we make so much money is because people don't want our product, but they can't leave because we trick them. But also it doesn't have good results, because when people find the way out, they will never come back, and they will make sure all of their friends have heard their tale of woe. And one thing that Netflix has done, which I think is a real leader, is not only have they always been monthly only, you can cancel anytime, always, but they recently announced that if you haven't used the product in a year or more, is you haven't logged in a year or more, they don't want your zombie revenue, and they will cancel the subscription for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But again, you can see, so the fundamental thing is the difference between people sitting in a room saying, how can we make more money off people, versus people sitting in a room saying, what's the best for our members, and really thinking of them as members instead of just customers. So I want to open it up now to questions from other folks. What questions do you have for Robbie about the membership economy, the forever transaction, or where the future of business is going? Because she nailed it on this one. So she probably knows where we're going after this. I was told this was a talkative bunch.
Yeah, guys, absolutely feel free to raise your hand. I put a really too long-winded one in, but Katie, I know, will tell me if there are other people coming who want to ask questions. So we have one from Michelle. So great to see you. How can we better serve? How can we better serve our customers? Is where it's at. It's not that. I thought that was a question, Michelle. It's so interesting to think of that, because she teaches yoga, and people do feel like it's kids, and people do feel like members. I mean,
yeah, it was kind of a statement, not really a question. Sorry, I framed it that way.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. It is, how can we better serve our customers, and why is our customer here in the first place? Mm-hmm. Right? So what is it that brings them for children's yoga? Is it that they want to, have a babysitter for an hour? Is it that they want to do something meaningful with their children? Is it that they want to teach their children, coping strategies to help them later in life? And whatever that promise is that you're making to them, there's a lot of other ways to layer in even more value. And whether or not you offer subscription pricing in exchange for that bundle of benefits, you're building that kind of member mindset where they say, when I'm thinking about how to better, relate to my children, or how to help them cope with stress, they're going to go to Michelle first.
Yeah.
That's really what this membership mindset is all about, is how do you make them sort of think of you tied to a challenge, a goal, an objective, rather than a product.
Well, yeah. I think go ahead, Michelle.
No, I'm listening. I think that's exactly right. And those are really great questions, because right now what I'm noticing is that, there's a shift in the way that we used to think, in this example of yoga, that it happens on a mat. Like, that's why we're there, to come to the mat and have this experience. And really what's shifted with COVID is that it's the transition of what we learn on the mat when it comes to resilience, confidence, and physical, mental, and emotional agility, is the everyday practice of what we are doing in this space of uncertainty. And that's not going to go away. And the anxiety and depression numbers aren't going away either. So I love what you're saying about the membership mindset. And this is the first time that we've embraced that type of model. So I really appreciate learning everything that you shared today. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It's interesting, because when you start to think, like, there's a lot of things where I'll tell, like, let's say, you talked about, I'm not there to be on the mat. I'm there for what it does for me. I'm there for the practice. If you think about even something as silly as a car wash, right? I spoke at this car wash conference a few years ago, and everybody at all of the booths was talking about how great they were because they could make your car wash 9 minutes instead of 10 minutes. And I was like, let me tell you a secret.
Instead of
7 minutes. But the real truth is, nobody wants a car wash. We want our cars to be clean. Right. And if you could give us a pill that would make the cars be clean all the time, we would pay even more than we pay for your 9-minute or 11-minute car wash. It's about the outcome. It's about the goal. And in fact, I don't want to clean it. I want it to never get dirty. Same thing. Like, I don't want to lose weight. I want to be healthy. I want to be at a healthy weight. Can you help me, do that? And layering in all the different benefits to help them, and not being too attached to the specific how, I think opens up so much more potential for value. Oh, I see somebody has a question.
And one of the things I hope everyone heard that Robbie did, and I love this, this is not just symbolic here. This wasn't just like, let's find a graphic and throw it on the front of the book. Because one of the things that you've done there that I want to unpack for folks is you reverse the order. Instead of thinking we've got yoga, why is this good for people from this standpoint, you reverse the order and you said, what is it that the yoga is doing for people? And you got in their head first and then worked backwards from that. So I want to give a chance for more questions, but I do want to address CD. I might be saying your name wrong. And I'm sorry, the irony here, I signed up for Digital Bitch Media and you're surprised they weren't nice to you. I'm just saying. I signed up for Digital Bitch Media and they kept my money. So what other questions do folks have for Robbie? Paige?
Yeah, I put it in the chat, but I just was curious, Robbie, what your thoughts were about whether or not there's some businesses that don't really fit the model for membership, or if you feel if people are creative enough that it would work for almost any industry and business.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. I think that any business that wants an ongoing relationship with a customer, and that customer has other options for solving their problem or achieving their goal. If those things are all true, then membership probably can help you. Just even the membership mindset, the saying, what problem am I solving? What goal am I helping them achieve? And then saying, how do I layer in value? The exceptions to that would be things like things that have a geographic advantage, last gas for 100 miles. Like, who cares if the bathroom's dirty? Like, if my tank is empty, I am going to stop there. I'm probably never going to pass through there again. If you have the drug that keeps my child alive, I'm not going to look for alternatives. Doesn't matter how you treat me. I don't have any other choice. If you have the regulatory advantage, the patent advantage, the geographic advantage, I once spoke to a group, and one of the people in the audience ran a fishing fleet, and the boats sold their fish at market price, and there was only one market. So, there's only one customer. You don't have any choice. You don't really need a membership model. But for almost everything else, there is a way to step back and tie it to the bigger goal.
I don't have a question so much as a story. Which I've been a member of AAA since the first time. My first job in sales, I was on the road and I was young and I was a woman and I didn't ever want to be stranded. So I got a membership to AAA. And then when I married, my husband had a membership to AAA and we had to merge the memberships, but I had been a member longer and his shorter, it says member since on your card, his shorter number of member years was put on the one card that was given to both of us. And I called them up and I was like, hey, I want credit for my X number more years, like it was decades. And they laughed and they said, you are not the first. It's not the first time we've had members marry and feel so, it's foolish, really, loyalty to AAA, but really they've had my back for, since I was right out of college. So they put my member number on my card, but that's how they think. That was impressive.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things that are so interesting to me. I've never heard that story before, but I totally get that, you earned your status. One of the things in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? It's like, once your basic physiological needs have been met, right? Food, water, shelter, Wi-Fi, then you want to, mitigate risk. You want to feel a sense of belonging, and then you want to be held in high regard by the people with whom you belong, right? Mm-hmm. And you want to be, and I always think of that as you want to be recognized for your contributions or your achievements, right? And in your case, you had a big achievement. And what's interesting to me is that they docked you for marrying somebody who hadn't been as high achieving, instead of bringing him up and saying, hey, you married an important person. We're going to give you a glow for being associated with her. Like, I'm just surprised that they went in that direction for that.
Well, they fixed it.
Someone on the chat was saying USAA, and I think, and they talk about their customers. They use the word members. They do
Yeah.
insurance for military people. And I just looked them up on Glassdoor, and the top rating is USAA, noble mission with fantastic senior leadership. And so
Yeah.
one of the things, Robbie, that I know you've seen happen is when people are doing this right, when they have that forever promise and they live up to it, their employees become their best salespeople. All their
Yeah.
employees.
Yeah,
And
I put that comment in because I work at a software company that does USAA's insurance software, and he came to speak to us. And while he was he was just the most amazing CEO, so service-minded and so humble. And you know, they serve people who serve their country. So the whole, I mean, it's a self-reinforcing thing. Anyway, my sister is a member of the United States Naval Force, and I was texting her like, "Hey, are you are she's like, "Oh, they're the best," you know.
Yeah.
She was raving about them. And then it turns out that there were many people at my company texting their sisters and saying, or their siblings, and saying, "Are you a member of USAA?" And they all got that same thing. So it's employees and customers.
And the best marketing, you know, Robbie, you came up obviously through marketing. We're all sitting here on this call talking about how awesome they are, and everyone should text their, you know, family members about that. And it's because they have that through line to that forever promise that you talked about, Robbie. Do you want to talk a little bit about the thing when people try and get their members to bring other members in? You and I have had a conversation about that, how people will say, "Oh, we'll give you a referral fee if you bring in someone," and why that like is terrible. So if you're doing that, I'm sorry. I'll pay you to sell out your family and friends. Don't explain that.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting. So there's two different ways of doing this. One of them is to say, if you love what we do, tell your friends. If we love it, you tell your friends, and maybe I'll even do something that ties in with the benefit you're already here for. But if you ask people to do something and you give them a financial reward, so I'll give you $5 for every person you bring in, what that does is it creates a financial relationship, a transactional kind of situation. And that person, the loyalty changes. It doesn't make them feel more loyal because now you have terms of an agreement. You know, every time you do this for me, I give you that. And that's what I think actually is the case with most frequent flyer programs, any kind of points-based loyalty programs. They're not really about loyalty. They don't change how you feel. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. If you feel love for United Airlines, I would love to hear about it. But for me, at least from my, 100 and some thousand miles last, in 2019, did not make me feel more love, but I did feel entitled to my upgrades and my free tickets. I felt like I had earned them, and I had earned them the hard way. And, every time there was a period of time between the time I worked at Booz Allen and the time I started consulting where I wasn't traveling as much when my kids were little. And I remember every time I'd get on an airplane and I'd see those people sitting in first class and those people that were 1K and got to get on the plane first, I actually felt really smug because I was like, I know you earned that seat with hours and hours and hours and hours of airport and airplane time. And I am perfectly happy to go to the back and sit in the middle in exchange for not having to spend my days like that. But
And
nothing
you and
to
I
do
had
with
a
loyalty.
conversation
Yeah.
like about Daily Harvest. If you refer someone to Daily Harvest, they get something free.
Yeah.
So it feels like, oh, look at me, I'm sharing this nice little cool thing with you. So I want to go back to something that you said. We still have some time for questions, but I want to go back to something that you said that I thought was just wonderful. In the opening to the membership economy, you said your membership in the membership economy is waiting. Your free trial starts right now. So what can people do with this mindset? You've written the two seminal books on the topic, the membership economy, the forever transaction. Where do people go from here? What has really changed in business that we need to just like flip the switch on?
Yeah. So I mean, I think we've touched on a lot of them, but organizations, whatever organization, whatever business you work with, whatever nonprofits you care about that are near and dear to your heart, whatever school you teach at, I think it's time to think of the people you serve as part of your community and to focus on the long-term relationship. If you look at what's going on right now in China, for example, there's all of these companies that are focused on selling everything to the same person. Once they bring in a person, they're going to do everything for that person so they don't look for alternatives. That's where everything is going. Is if you think like, if I have my loyalty to this organization and this organization, I'm not even going to hear your message if you're new, right? I'm not looking for alternatives. I found a solution. I buy everything on Amazon. Good luck if you're a retailer that sells the same products as Amazon, because I've already established my habit. So wherever you are, it's really important to build that ongoing relationship. And the best way to do that is by thinking about their long-term well-being and innovating to continue to deliver.
Mm-hmm. So we've got a question from Pip, who says, do you think the membership model is transferable to small businesses that are more transactional, who provide one and done services like house painting business, tutoring business, a focus group moderator?
Okay, this is such a good question, Pip. I'm just going to out Pip here and say, I know that she is a phenomenal college counselor, and she coached all of my children. So thank you for that. It depends. The answer to your question is it depends on how you think about what you do. If you say, I am a house painter, well, then probably once you've painted my house, I don't have any need for you. It's very transactional, and I might not need to repaint my house for 12 years. And who knows if you're still in business. If I think of myself as someone that helps you make the exterior of your home look beautiful, suddenly there's a lot of potential, right? Because that's how I, as a consumer, think about it, is I'm painting my house because I want the outside to look nice. And if that person said, your hedges need trimming, do you want me to look into that? Do you want me to redo your patio? Do you want me to, it's a different lens. Instead of saying I'm a house painter, I'm an exterior maker beautiful. I think really changes how you do it. If you're a college counselor, once that person gets into college, maybe your work is done. But if you wanted, you could say, I'm helping somebody thrive in achieving their adult goals. And that starts with getting into college, and then it's getting the most out of college and summer jobs and first job out of school. And, there's a place you could go once you've done the heavy lifting of getting to know someone and building credibility.
Mm-hmm. Kelly is asking about the Washington Post. What happened to the Washington Post and membership since the CEO purchased it? Are there parts of Amazon that we may think of as evil? Have they helped its Washington Post business?
Well, first of all, they suddenly had deep pockets, right? That was a newspaper that was shutting down, right? They were laying off their journalists. They were not evolving to meet the needs of their most loyal readers, because they just didn't have the resources or the ability to invest in the long term. And I think Bezos gave them new life. It gave them an opportunity to achieve their mission. And he also, I don't know if you remember, but everybody that was an excuse my little Freudian slip there, anybody that was an Amazon Amazon Prime member, got a 6-month membership at the Washington Post, wherever you were in the world. And so, the digital one, suddenly they went from being a regional publication to a global publication. And that's happened. There's a few, in the whole, what's happened with the membership economy in the world of news, there've been a lot of losers who've gone out of business, and there have been a few really big winners that have expanded the relationships that they're able to have because they're no longer limited by delivering print.
Well, you speak to it very eloquently, and it's a great example. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I grew up in Washington, D.C. My brother delivered the Washington Post. I had to deliver it when he went to patrol camp. But my husband, who grew up in Georgia, is a subscriber to the Washington Post, the digital version. And what I saw in him, we were at a party, and he said, yeah, I subscribe to the Washington Post. Do you know what their masthead says? Democracy dies in darkness. So he's like, standing up for the tribe out there at this party saying,
is that why you married him?
yeah, saying democracy dies in darkness. I'm a Washington Post subscriber. But I think it's just such an excellent example of like that's a tell for him, like a badge of honor that I'm standing out here in this party in Georgia talking about, yeah, look at me, I'm one of the cool kids. I subscribe to the Washington Post. And so I can see where you're going with that, where, when they got that funding, that journalism started to happen. So I want to read you something from the latest book, from the Forever Transaction, that you said that I think is really important. When you commit to a forever transaction, you're focusing on the long term, and your intentions, you're making intentions transparent to the people involved. It's meaningful work. Why is it so meaningful? Could you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's funny because, a lot of your work is around employees, right? Noble purpose. What is the purpose of the organization? And that makes employees do better work, love their work more, and all of that. And I think that membership is almost innately noble. That if you say my work is to help somebody achieve their long-term goal, and I have the flexibility to continue to evolve what I do for them. And by the way, it's a much more transparent relationship because they get to know you over time and they build expectations. All of that creates for a much more meaningful and an authentic relationship. And I think you see it not just in the loyalty that you get from your customers, but as you said earlier, the loyalty you get from your employees and the engagement that they feel when they're helping people get and stay healthy instead of selling bikes, right? If you're helping people, look and feel their best instead of selling jeans.
Yeah, it's transformative. And I just think that this work that you have done, and I really encourage people to read both the books to understand it, had a transformative effect on my business. I share it with lots of our clients that you've done really two things here, I think, that are so important. You've helped people see how to shift the North Star of their business to this forever promise. And then you've shown them technically how to actually execute on that. And that it's transformative. Like I said, when you first were talking to us about the membership economy, I felt like someone somewhere was saying, I think we're in an industrial revolution. And 5 people were like, whatever that guy said, I think that guy's right. I felt like this is that moment that we're having. So,
yeah.
So we're close to time. Do we want to take some more questions? We have one here from CD. Would the model work for funding an advocacy group until it's accomplished its purpose?
Yeah, this is something I've actually been thinking about a lot. And I was thinking, I've actually talked to Kelly a little bit about this and to Lisa about this in the context of our political structure and the Democrats and democracy. But I think that there's a lot that can be applied to advocacy work. That advocacy work is innately mission driven. You have a promise. As long as you support us, we will do everything we possibly can to achieve this goal. I also think that it's important when you start to do that is to think about what is the promise that you're making and what is the promise that your members really want you to be making. Is it about just achieving the goal? Is it about helping them feel like they're able to do their best to contribute to the goal in whatever way is possible for them? Is it that they can hang out with other people who believe in that mission? All of those things become sources of value for your members. So the basic thing that is valuable is to say, okay, I'm giving you my money and you're working hard to achieve a goal that I believe in. But I'm giving you my money and you're helping me find a way to be part of it. That's even better. You're helping me connect to other people like that. That's even better. Each one of those, you're helping me to learn more. That's even better. So really taking a step back and not just saying, we're going to charge you and we're going to do it on a subscription, but taking a step back and saying, what is it that our members, that our supporters wish we would do for them that would make them in turn commit to us?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you've just articulated the model so well. So I want to open it up. I know most folks are on mute. Go ahead and take yourself off mute because we've talked a lot about this. And I'm just really curious. You don't have to have a question. I'm curious what you all think about this shift and what's happening in business and where you see it playing out. I'd be curious to hear from folks.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
This is Sadie
Sadie.
Garcia. Hey, thank you for answering that question and for actually reading it out loud for me. I when you were talking, I realized just how much larger it could be than just getting to the purpose. Because, for instance, mine would be advocating against advocating for a standardized protocol of diagnosis relative to diabetes. You know, they're doing a lot of type 2 diagnoses that are really type 1. They just don't go the extra mile to get the testing done. And Europe's got a standardized, you know, at least in Britain, they do standardized testing automatically once that diagnosis is a possibility. It's very important in our country because once you're diagnosed, if you have insurance, you could be really screwed if you have a change of diagnosis. And there's a big difference between type 2 and type 1. Huge. You know, it could be life-threatening if you're not properly treated. But I could also see where it could go to other areas. And I really appreciate that because I just hadn't clicked in my mind. And when you were answering it, all of a sudden there was like an epiphany, like, oh, yeah. And yes, it would be like, we will advocate for you where you maybe don't have the time or you don't have the desire to lobby Congress and, you know, whatever it takes, lobby the medical industry. So yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. And this has been a great webinar. Can't wait to read the book.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for
Amazon
sharing
as soon as you're done.
Yeah, I just want to, I have a podcast, and my next guest, that I think is next week, actually, Allie Harper. She sees herself as a community organizer. That's, if you asked her what her job is, she'd say, I'm a community organizer and I'm an advocate for diverse books for everyday children's topics. So like, not this is Martin Luther King, but this little girl won't go to bed at night and she happens to be, she happens to have two moms, or she happens to be in a wheelchair, but the story's not about that. The story's about she won't go to bed at night. And Allie was looking for ways to create that change. She wanted publishers to publish more books with these everyday diverse stories. And she approached all these different techniques, and she came to the conclusion that having a subscription box of those books would both engage the parents and teachers and librarians, and it would demonstrate in a tangible financial way to publishers that these books are worth investing in. And so it's sort of funny because she's like an accidental subscription entrepreneur because she doesn't really care that much about the business. She cares about forging this change. So really different way of looking at advocacy.
I hear that community organizers can do pretty well for themselves. They can lead to some other big things.
You could even be president.
I just had a quick other question about Amazon. I mean, what about when the intention doesn't match the impact? I've read about how Amazon, is really like saving people time, and that's why they put together Amazon Prime. And then, it's like, oh God, like I need diapers tomorrow. Okay, like I guess I won't walk to Safeway, even though it is 24/7. It happens to be in our neighborhood. Like, I mean, it's not like Safeway is like many other places that you could support locally. Although I don't know too many local places that sell diapers anymore. But like, how that happen? What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I think that there are often unintended consequences of any change. No good deed goes unpunished, I guess they sometimes say. So I don't think that when Amazon launched, they thought, we're going to prevent people from getting exercise and we're going to put every small business, retailer, out of business or make it hard for them to make a living. I think that some of those questions are for government to think about regulation. Honestly, as I get older, I'm more of a fan of that. And also, I think that, we need to see our, and this is like getting way out of subscription, but I mean, I'm interested in what other people think, but leadership of organizations right now, they think that their only stakeholder is their shareholder. And, we saw at the Business Roundtable, they changed their description of, who your stakeholder, from shareholder to stakeholder, to include your customers, your employees, and your community. So I'm hoping that that's the direction we're going in. But honestly, what I've seen in the newspapers in the past year does not give me great hope, at least right now.
Yeah, if you have any thoughts that you would like to share about companies, organizations that are doing exactly what you're talking about, it would be great. We're always talking about the value of that, and I love highlighting companies in other industries that are amazing models for that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
definitely.
go. Pip had a question.
I do. I'm actually wondering, how often do you think companies need to sort of refresh their membership model depending on how valuable their content is to the consumer? So, I mean, I can see like a streaming service, very valuable now, but let's say something else comes along where it's just not as desirable.
Yeah.
Are they pivoting with new things, or what works best?
Well, I mean, I think so. Netflix is an interesting example, right? They've always, I mean, from the time that I became familiar with them, which is like 20 years ago, their mission was to provide consumers with, the broadest selection of professionally created video entertainment content delivered in the most efficient way possible with cost certainty. And 20 years ago, that was 3 DVDs out at a time that you watched on your DVD player. And today that's their content streamed to your phone, right? And so they've changed the how, because we're never going to get tired of entertainment, right? We're never going to get tired of professionally created entertainment. But the how has to change. Same thing with fitness. It's not that we've decided that we don't care about fitness anymore. It's that some of the old models are no longer the best way to achieve the goal. So I think a lot of longtime membership organizations, their promise is still compelling, but their delivery is not credible, right? Getting a newspaper 5 days a week at 5 p.m. is no longer the best way to stay current and make better decisions in the world around me. The promise is still there. Like people said, like a lot of the news organizations said, oh, young people don't care about understanding the world around them anymore. That's why they don't read newspapers. They don't value, good reporting. It's like, no, they value good reporting, but they're getting it somewhere else in a better package, less expensive, more convenient, more interesting. So I think that Pip, there are probably some cases where the promise itself needs to change, but more often it's the way they're delivering on it.
And I think that goes back to what you were saying earlier. It's what business are you actually in? And so many people think they're in the delivery business of the model versus the business that they're actually in, which is the promise. Katie asked, can you name some of your favorite subscription models from a business perspective? Who is doing it right? Let's end on a really high note.
Yeah. So, I mean, my favorite subscription examples are, I mean, we've talked about some of them already. Netflix, because they are always trying to do right by their customer, and because of their incredible discipline. Like they're not, when I consulted with them, one of the things that came over the transom was a video game company that also had DVDs in a little, that were exactly the same size. They said, why don't you add our catalog to your subscription? And they said, we don't know anything about video games. That is not our promise. It's not what we do. And they kept the focus. They were not like shiny penny, shiny object people. So I love them, and I love that they let you cancel anytime. I love LinkedIn because they've layered in so much value over time. I mean, I don't know if you all remember, but back in the day, the main thing that they was a place to put your resume, right? Where people could find it and you didn't have to fax them your resume. But their mission, and maybe I'll end on this story, their mission, because you opened with the Alan Blue quote, the mission of LinkedIn is to help people thrive throughout their professional career. But before they started LinkedIn, they had a different company called SocialNet, which was a dating company, like a dating site. And they were really good. It was a really good, well-designed product. But what they found was their most loyal and engaged and successful subscribers were canceling within 6 months because they found their soulmate. And they didn't need it anymore because their promise was too narrow. It wasn't really a forever promise. A promise of get your soulmate, find your soulmate is probably a 6 month, if you're really intense, it might be a 6 month, endeavor. And if it doesn't work in 6 months, you're out of there anyway, because it didn't work for you. So they said the next time we start a company, we're going to give ourselves a longer runway.
That's amazing. And you think about everything that they've done with LinkedIn Learning. Robbie has so many great LinkedIn Learning classes out there, and just helping people. What did you say the mission was? I don't want to get it wrong. What is their mission? I don't want to say it wrong.
Oh, LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Oh, to help people thrive in their professional careers.
Yeah. So everything that they do is around that.
Yeah. I know. I see a note that we're at time.
Yeah.
Kelly, do you want to, or Lisa, I don't know how do you guys want to wrap it up? Kelly?
Yeah, you can
Kelly's party.
come back to us. We are enraptured. I mean, God, it's so interesting. And this just helps us with so many different parts of our lives. I think just also you've really brought so many of us in with this discussion about belonging, right? And what does it feel like to belong? And maybe like especially what it feels like to belong in this year with this massive global health tragedy that could have gone so many different ways if people felt like they belonged and were supported in many different ways, right? Related to food, related to exercise, some of those things. So Katie put something in chat, which I know a lot of you are good friends with her from CPS lectures. She says she'll hook you up if you put a review on Robbie's book. I know everybody here can just really feel how much Robbie's book would help so many. We know all of us, and so many other places do so much better. So if you do that, we would love it. And I just want to say what an immersive conversation. And wow, Robbie and Lisa, thank you for helping us feel like we belong. You give us so many cool things to think about. My amazing brother, Patrick, and his wife, Christiana, are here. And we've just been completely, immersed in this little side chat about like how our parents did that for us. And, things that like they did to help us feel that way. I will end on, so I have an American Express card and it says member since 60. So I was born in 1967 and I got that like from my dad, and how my dad like got to be a member of American Express, that's kind of cool. I think they started in 58. And, making you feel like you belong, that's really, it's really amazing. And when we think about some of these things from an intergenerational perspective, that's also really special. So thank you for transporting us. And Katie, thank you for doing everything that you always do for the diaTribe Foundation every week. Thank you to Marjorie Sennett, who's here. She didn't ask any questions, but an amazing board member, so valuable, helps us think about these questions so often. We love it that everyone joined us tonight. Please help us share the video that will be coming out soon, and have an amazing evening. Thank you again, Robbie and Lisa.
Thank you both so much.
So much.
Thank you.
Great night. Thank you. Thank you all. Good to see everybody.
Yeah, that was great.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Oh gosh, Robbie.